Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Blue is the New White podcast. So today we talk with a guest who was introduced to me by my good friend and frequent guest, Matt Waxer, or the HVAC doctor, as you may know him. So Terence Chan is one of the most forward-thinking people I've ever met in the blue-collar space, always looking toward the next generation of workforce. So listen in today to hear Terence's journey from straight A student to engineer to plumber and eventually to business owner and master marketer. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and on our website at blueisthenewwhite.com to receive all the latest updates. You can now find this podcast on iHeartRadio, SiriusXM, and Pandora. As always, we rely on word of mouth from our listeners to further this mission. So if you enjoy this episode, please do me a favor. Take just a second to rate it, review it, and share it with your friends. The future generations of tradespeople and trades businesses depend on it. They depend on you. Also, if you're looking to advance your blue-collar career or propel your business, be sure to check out the brand new Blues the New White Academy at BITNW.Academy. That's BITNW.Academy. Thank you again, and enjoy this episode of Blue is the New White with Terence Chan. I'm here today with another guest who is sure to add value to me and our listeners, which I'm really, really excited about. I had the pleasure of connecting with him a couple of weeks ago, an introduction from Matt Waxer, or the HVAC doctor, for those of you who have seen him on my show a couple of times now. But he was able to connect me with Terence, and we had a great conversation. Thought he was going to be a great guest to the show and be able to provide value in a whole lot of different ways. But first, let's get to know him. Let's get to know you, Terence. Welcome to the Blue is the New White podcast, first and foremost, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. So for those who don't know who you are, I'm sure that some of my listeners may know who you are already. But for those who don't, can you kind of give us a rundown on who is Terence, where'd you come from, and how'd you get to where you are today?
Yeah, I'm Terence, for all that you don't know. I come from Vancouver, Canada, BC, British Columbia, and I own a business for plumbing and heating. And at the same time, I'm also founder of a new business, which is a media business. As I went along in my path, I decided to start another venture.
That's awesome. We're going to get into that a little bit today. But first, I kind of want to get into your background a little bit. So, explain to us, oftentimes plumbing business and media business don't really go hand in hand. So let's talk about the plumbing business first. What led you to this plumbing business? How'd you get into it?
Very interesting story. I think I've told it probably like 5-6 times now, but every time it's always very refreshing. So how I initially started was I never even knew I was going to be a plumber in the first place, or even start my own business. But I think I've always had that mindset to do my own thing because I grew up in a entrepreneurial set because my parents owned an arcade. So we've done a lot of arcade work. I've been helping them in and out, writing emails because they immigrated into Canada. So English wasn't their forte. So funny enough, like skin color is there. My skin color says Asian, right? So the Asian mindset and mentality has always been, we want you to be a doctor. We want you to be a lawyer or whatever it is, always straight A's and all that. And I've been put on that pedestal to get there. And lucky enough, we had the resources and all that to do the education and the studies so that I was a straight A student. I went into university and still plumbing was not in there. And then once I got into university, the thing about life, which is funny, is that at a certain age, and even now, not for me, but for others, you don't know where you want to be. They don't teach you in school how you want to become an actual doctor and an engineer. So for me, I was just like, well, whatever grades I have, I'll try to get into university, which for us, a really renowned university for where I am is UBC, which is University of British Columbia. So I went in there, I became an engineer for the first year, and I didn't even know what an engineer was. I was 18, right? You get into school, you're like, okay, well, mom, dad, look at me. I'm in university now, and I finally get all the freedom. And, to backtrack that a little bit, is just that in this Asian mentality, the parents are really strict. I would not go out on weekends, not go out on weekdays. My only free time was to go out to Richmond with them to do more work. So it's been beaten into me where work and work is the only thing. So um, a lot of parents don't teach the lifestyle of what you want to do when you grow up. So I became an engineer without knowing what it was. And then fast forward to that, it's just that I finally got the freedom when I went to university and I did nothing. I didn't study. I failed all my classes. Uh, Maybe passed like two classes in general, but then I found out by the time I was catching up, I had to retake six more classes because engineer is actually on a different level. Like when you go to these kind of courses, you find out, man, these people are either really smart or they have to work really hard. So, anyways, I failed out of that because I was gaming all night. I go I'd go to an exam because the night before I'd sleep at 4 o'clock. My exam's at 7 or 8. And then I'd go in there and I'll be the first one done because I write nothing down other than my name and pass it. So after I failed, my parents were like, well, screw university. Why don't you try becoming a plumber? We know this Asian plumber that apparently does really well and he has 4 or 5 homes. You should do the same. And it's weird because, for an Asian, they don't really think about going through that route. But then as conversations lead to that, they just have the conversation of knowing that, hey, this trade can actually make money. And for me, during that time, I was trying to look for a job because I dropped out. And I was trying to look for Old Navy or Gap or whatever it may be to try to start my first job. Never got hired. And then sooner or later, they told me to try plumbing. I signed up for plumbing and I ended up going in there really enjoying working with my hands. It was a completely different experience than having to look at somebody spank a rope and then tell me to calculate that. Right? That's how weird it was. I'm in a class, the prof is like, here's a rope, calculate that. And then everybody's like, okay, so we gotta use this formula and that formula. But plumbing is just like, well, here's a bathroom brew. This is how we plumb it. This is how we put it in. And thus that started my whole journey into this plumbing experience of, going into that, then finding out I wanted to start my business one day.
Wow, that's interesting. That's the first time I've heard that on this show. So congratulations on 162 guests. No, that is that's super interesting path. So you said that you found that you enjoyed plumbing. You gave one example of the differences between let's call it academic work and working with your hands. Right. But what else about the trade itself? What about working with your hands specifically resonated with you?
What I really liked about working with my hands, and I think a lot of blue collar people could resonate with as well, is just that at the end of the day, when you put something together, you're able to step back and look at it and be really proud of it. It's different in an aspect of if you're an engineer, of course, you put something together on paper, then you see somebody else do the work and you're like, well, this is correct or this is not correct. But I think the thing that really resonates with me most is just that I can step back and see, hey, I've done a good job. The customer is really happy, and I'm really happy about what I've done. And I think that's what really captivated me to keep going as a blue collar, because it's almost like you're building Lego, but you're getting paid to build Lego.
I like that. That's a good analogy. I've got a more personal question, and obviously, if you don't want to answer any of the questions, just tell me to piss off, and we'll move on to the next one.
I'll answer everything.
All right, perfect. So, you said something, that you were a straight A student. You worked really hard. Obviously, your parents were a big influence on that, right? And then, but once you got to university, that freedom kind of, you said you kind of did nothing. Right, with that, it felt to me like maybe it was kind of a resistance, right? Like you put in that much work and that much effort, and now you didn't have somebody, basically to hold you accountable all the time, and so you took the opposite road. Can you talk to me a little bit about that, the feeling of freedom and why that didn't motivate you to put in more work or put in more effort?
Yeah, it's really weird actually. If I could really pull this back on what happened was that when I was in elementary, I actually got to an altercation where I went to court. Right, I wasn't the best kid, So we were we planned after school to beat up some kid and rustle him up because he was a bully at that time, actually. And it's funny because there was 20, 30 people who actually were there to watch because they actually didn't like the guy. And from that, like we roughed him up and that was it. Like nothing happened. His arm didn't break. He didn't really get hurt. It was just a little bit of push and shove. I brought a BB gun, shot him a couple times, or maybe didn't shoot him. I don't remember. But through that thing, what happened was I went to court. I had a problem with the cops through then, and then from an Asian perspective, the family hate. Like it was just like they've never been to court. They don't know how that society side is because they've immigrated over and they don't even know what court was or how the system worked. And then for me to be part of that, it was almost like I was going to go to juvenile prison or whatever the hell it was. And then since that happened, the case actually just got well, I don't know what the word is, but they just forgot about the case essentially. They just said they didn't have enough evidence of anything that happened, so they're just going to dismiss the whole case. But because of that, that screwed me over because I made that mistake. So after that, the Asian mentality was my mom would literally drive me to school every day. And then she'll pick me up as soon as school ended. So I had no life outside of school.
I
I couldn't
see.
play sports. I couldn't do all the other stuff. I would just come back to home. I'd have piano lessons. I'd have science tutor. I'd have English tutor. I had math tutor. I had drawing lessons. Uh, Everything in the book that you can think of. So practically throughout the whole 5 years of high school, I was trapped from grade 8 to grade 12, and that kind of created that resistance of like me finally getting to university and having that freedom because I'm finally out of that entrapment where I have more
Yeah.
responsibilities for myself. And because that happened, there was too much freedom all at once where I just didn't want to do anything other than play games till the next morning,
Right.
right? And that's kind of what happened to me. And I think if it was a different road, everything would have been different. But everything happens for a reason, which is where I ended up to where I am now. And that's kind of how that resistance happened.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for expanding on that because that definitely paints a clearer picture. And I hate bullies too, so I'm on your side, bud.
It's the thing is you hate bullies, but it's never the right thing. But when you're a kid, you don't know. Your first defensive offensive thought is like, let's teach them a lesson.
Yeah. Well, injustice comes in many forms, right? And we don't have to get into the philosophy of it, whether it's right or wrong, but I understand what you're saying, definitely. And, and I definitely see how that may have led to the sequence of events, that caused you to kind of take advantage of that freedom when you finally had it.
Yeah,
I would have done the same thing. So
yeah,
makes sense. And to your point, right? We're all on this path, right? Everything happens for a reason, and so without those events taking place, you wouldn't be here talking to me on this podcast about some of the incredible stuff that we're going to talk about. So
one hundred
awesome.
percent.
So great. Okay, cool. So let's fast forward a little bit. You got into plumbing, you enjoyed plumbing, you were able to see your accomplishments by working with your hands, it resonated with you. So now business ownership is way different. That's different than plumbing, that's different than engineering, that's different than getting straight A's. You got to be a special kind of crazy to want to open your own business, right?
Yeah.
Which is why we entrepreneurs are a special breed. So talk to me about that. What led to you wanting to open your own business and hang your own shingle?
I think it goes back, as I was saying earlier, to my parents having that entrepreneurial spirit, or whatever they've been doing, and I think it was just ingrained in my mind in a environmental DNA wise, where I thought to myself that one day I do want to do or own my own business as well. And I think what kind of pushed it forward was the fact that when I went into this blue collar trade, how I loved it so much, but there were so many things I wanted to change about it. And the fact that I wanted those changes, I couldn't make those changes as a person who was working under somebody. So, as the more I worked under different businesses, the more I learned how much I didn't like about the trade and the things that I wanted to change. And that really pushed me forward to wanting to start my own business because now that I have my own business, I'm doing everything that's different from what society has for any company out there. And I tell my apprentices the same thing, that, and I even tell customers or even manufacturer sales or everybody that works with me is just that impetus plumbing and heating is not the same as your next guy. Pricing's not the same, structure's not the same, process is not the same, nothing is the same, because we also use the power of marketing that together with what we do. And that's kind of really how everything happened to be, of just me not liking the trade and wanting to make a difference and becoming a leader within that industry so that I could make those changes.
Oh, that's an incredible answer. Anytime anybody, references wanted to be a thought leader in the space and do things differently than, go against the status quo, if you will. I think that's when the real change happens, right? That's when trends get set, and that's when entire industries change for the better. So I love what you're doing there. So for context, where are you at for like your plumbing business right now? How many employees do you have? Where do you want to be? Kind of paint us that picture of where that business is at today.
Today, the business is at seven people, 8 including myself. So we have 4 vans that's running. We have 3 journeymen, and the rest are apprentices. And we have one who's my girlfriend, who does all the accounting, the bookkeeping, etc. And that's practically the size that we're at right now. And moving forward, of how we're trying to scale is just to see how we can penetrate the market and then for the next generation. Because the hardest thing for us right now is that, as you know, and I'm pretty sure in all your other podcasts you're talking about, is just that we're short on people. And with the shortage of people, the study was every 7 guys that leave, there's only 1 new member that comes back in. And the hardest part about that now is with this generational shift. Being a millennial is great because you're both the shift. You're in the right side of where the boomers are, but you're also in the Gen Z side. So knowing how to play within those 2 realms have been very interesting. And how we're trying to scale is how to crack that code on how to work with the next generation, which is the Gen Z, so that we could help them create that environment where they can work, essentially. Because people have choices now. The biggest thing is that people said there's not enough people in a trade, but it's because there's so many choices. And how is the trade going to captivate these people to come in?
Yeah. What's the advantage of taking a trade over one of the other million choices that they have for a career choice, is what you're saying?
Yeah. And essentially for that's what we're looking at, to crack the code so that we can scale our business to the next side. Because no matter what I'm trying to do, there's no way that I could hire another 40 or 50 or 60-year-old to start helping me build the rest of the business to scale it bigger, because they just, as bad as it sounds, they just won't be there in the next 10 years for the business to keep running.
No, and that's, what I mean, good or bad, it's the truth, right? And it's just a fact. So that's something that you have to take into consideration. It's something you have to verbalize. So if you don't mind me asking, what's the average age across your team right now as it stands? If you had to guess.
I'd probably say 28.
Incredible. See, that's, and this is a scale I want my audience to pay attention to, right? Because what you're doing, Terence, is you're setting your business, your company up for the future. And there are so many skilled trades companies out there right now, whether it be HVAC, plumbing, electrical, refrigeration, food equipment, whatever it might be. There are so many companies out there right now that are trying to plug gaps. Right. And how do they plug the gaps? They buy into the revolving door of technicians that already exist in the industry. But the problem with that is the average age across those people is pushing, I think it's upwards of 50 years old. Yep. Right. So to your point, it's kind of means to an end. It's not looking to the future, right? And building your business on people coming into the trade. It's building business on people who already exist in the trade, which inherently, from an industry standpoint, there's nothing wrong with. People just need to know the differences, right? Because you're built for tomorrow. And it sounds like from how you're describing your business and the number of apprentices you have compared to technicians, that's a focus. You're living that every single day.
Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And we're constantly trying to do these new development plans for these new apprentices or these young journeymen, because we're playing the long game for sure. For us to be a leader sooner or later, or we are already in a certain sense now. It's just that we have to show the rest of the community and the rest of the plumbing and heating world, this is how we prepare the next generation, and this is how we can create more interest for the next generation. That's been a very big thing for our business, because our mission statement is industry leaders. It's essentially everybody that comes in, this is the mission statement that we're focused on, and we teach everybody that comes in how we're going to get there, and that if you stay with a company like ours, you will be part of leading the charge, essentially.
Yeah, somebody's got to be the standard, right? Somebody's got to push the standard in the industry, and that's the only way that it's going to change. And it starts with somebody like you, and then people see you and your success, not only right now but into the future, right? And then it becomes a model that others want to follow. Right. So that's why this conversation is so important, with us being able to cascade this information of, your thought process and how you're leading your business today. That's incredible. So let's tie in the marketing aspect of this, because, a big thing that we've all said about the skilled trades and the intrigue that it generates is that these are unsexy businesses. Right? The skilled trades aren't typically this sexy business. They're not the Instagram influencer. They're not the stockbroker. They're not the doctor. They're not the lawyer. So how, from a marketing standpoint, do you position your business or the industry to make it sexy?
Yes, that's a great question. And I think for people that know me a bit better for what I already do, I'm an influencer in a certain sense. But, the word influencer, a lot of people are scared of that word, thinking that, I'm just shaking my ass, doing a little dance, doing twerk, the TikTok and Instagram game, right? But no, that's not really how we got into that marketing side. A little quick backstory of how I got into it is because when I first started my business, I started posting, and from posting, it was just a generational thing that I wanted to share with my friends for what they see and for what people see and how my business rolls. And moving fast forward a little bit on that, because I did that, I was able to create a lot of new connections throughout the world. It wasn't just in BC alone. I was able to connect with people from the States. I connected with somebody in Japan. And from that conversation, we had this whole world plumber thing, is what we were calling it at the time, where a Japanese plumber actually wanted to show us what plumbing was like in the Japanese world. So we bought our own tickets, but he covered all the accommodations and food, and he went to show us the world of plumbing in a Japanese standpoint, where we went to go look at Rigid Tools in Japan. We went to go look at Toto. We went to look at different manufacturers and their suppliers. It was an amazing, phenomenal trip where it blew my mind of how marketing can really change the world and change how people have a thought on what we do day to day. And I think through that interest, I just kept continuing on doing the social media thing, where one day I found out, or as I continued, I found out that I could generate an influence over this trade of things I want to change, because I have the people behind me. I'm listening to what the people want. I'm posting what the people want. I'm helping people, and I'm genuinely giving value. And that's how I kind of put the two and two together, where now I have a marketing business, plumbing business, because both of every business, no matter what you want to say or what you think, revolves around attention and marketing. There is no business out there that can be successful without marketing. And anybody can fight me on this, but I would say, I'm pretty sure as well, Josh, that without marketing, your business can only go so far, because nobody will know who you are, and you need to find a way to get your name out there. And that's why we have that social presence, and being able to meld the two together and help manufacturers and brands do this, brand themselves through social media marketing or digital marketing, and having my business as well. It puts me in a really good position to be able to provide that value and change the industry in the ways that I want, because I hear from the masses and I'm able to give back to the other masses.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying right now. So two thoughts. Number one, you need a pin that says Terence Chan, the man of the people. I would wear it. I'd sport that every single day. No, I think that's awesome, and just the whole, Japan worldwide plumber thing. I mean, that's incredible to be able to view not only the trades and the marketing experiences within the trades in completely different cultures. I think is wildly valuable. So that's more of a statement, not a question. My question is, So first off, I agree with you on the marketing aspect, right? Marketing is imperative in your business. How you market is often what comes into question, right? Sometimes, in industries like this that are typically of, owners of older generations, they have a preconceived notion of what marketing means, right? And oftentimes I would argue that they confuse advertising and marketing. And they can't really wrap their heads around what it is to market, right? You have a very specific way, right? You leverage a network that you've built, right? And it's almost a value-based marketing. That's similar to what I do. Put out the podcasts. I wrote the book. I mean, all this it's all about marketing, right? It's all about being, establishing yourself as a thought leader in the space. And when I say yourself, I'm not necessarily talking about me or you personally, but what we've built and what we stand for.
Yeah.
Right. And so talk to me a little bit about how, now we've talked about how you market, but how do I want to phrase this? Let me think about it for a second. So what forms of marketing are important in this industry, most important in this industry that people might not be aware of?
Branding.
Thank you. See, good
Branding.
Good answer. Talk to me about it.
That's the only thing I think people should really focus on, because how you brand yourself and how you show yourself to the world is what a lot of people look at through business. Not only in the relation with you, with the B2B, not only is it from the B2C relationship, the B2B relationship. A lot of people that don't understand the branding side is that it helps you through every aspect, both those aspects of B2B and B2C, because now when you're a thought leader in that realm, in that space, you're respected from the brands that you work with. They come to you as a subject matter expert. You get to know people that are within the industry that actually talk about the next generation. Like I would review exams because of the brand that we have. So we look towards the next generation and see what they're being tested on. That's one of the things. And then the other branding comes to the consumer mindset as a plumbing and heating business. Now that I have a media side, they both meld together, as I said, is because when people are searching us up, even if they're searching Impetus Plumbing and Heating, as soon as they scroll down to the page, they'll start seeing the owner, Terence Chan, and what they do. So that means you have all that backup behind you, that you're not just that guy talking shit saying how good you are or what you do. You actually have articles written on that. And that's the branding that you want, that when people search for you, you have a high quality customer because they know that you will do a good job and you stand for a certain bar for your company. And I think that's the really important part that a lot of businesses are not doing enough, is to set their brand out there so that they're different from their competition. Because if you don't do that, yeah, you could do advertisements, you can get your cost per click and all that BS, but you're just running a business, I guess, but you're not really running a business.
Oh, I understand. So that's a really good way to put it. So is it fair to say then marketing is getting attention and branding is your reputation?
Yes.
That's awesome.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's kind of, I'm trying to kind of put the pieces together and just frame it in different ways for my audience to take away. And I like that a lot because it's just, there's a whole lot more surrounding that we don't have time to get into today.
It's hard because sometimes I get lost in the concept myself and people ask me what's advertisement, what's marketing. And honestly, at the end of the day, what I tell them is I don't give a shit about any of it. Just brand yourself. Because when you brand yourself, there's so much more that you're able to do. And one of the biggest reasons why I also step into that space is I want to be leading is a different thing, but I want to be leading and also creating that value for the next generation. I want people to join this trade knowing how good it can be. That it's not just if you're a plumber, you're just drain cleaning and picking up shit and playing with shit. Like there's more to it than that, and that it could be a career as long as you love what you do. And to show that I love what I do, people are more interested to want to join that trade. And that's essentially what I want. I want more people. I want more of the younger generation to know that it's fun to be in plumbing. It's fun to be in HVAC.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's the exact mindset that we all really need to have. If we want any shot at, fixing the labor shortage in these industries, we've got to adopt the mindset that we want to be here, that there's reasons to be here, and that, yeah, it can be fun, it can be fulfilling, it can be lucrative, it can check all the boxes that somebody might put on their list of what it means to be successful,
100%.
and that's the key.
And I think for a lot of listeners, the most important thing, if they're a business owner, a lot of them think that the kids nowadays don't know what they want to do, or they're just not working hard enough, or they're stupid, or whatever it may be. But the problem is people got to be more accountable on that aspect, that it's not the next generation that's the problem. It's the fact that you as a business owner, how are you going to work your business so that you can work with this next generation? Because they're practically your only choice. And for them, you're not their only choice. They have so many options, because anybody can become a streamer the next day now. Anybody can be an influencer. You can make videos and become a faceless YouTube and be a YouTuber and all that shit. Yeah. There's so much shit out there that they could make great money on. It's just that, what's the reason for them to want to trade? That's what people have to think about. It's not because they don't want to work. It's just you didn't create the interest for them to want to work for you.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly right. And I'm glad that you said it. Probably going to use that one as a clip if I'm, if I'm being honest. Now we're going to move to close, but I do have one more question for you. It's a question I like to ask everybody who comes on the show. So kind of on the heels of what we're talking about, right, is that, society kind of has a preconceived definition of success for everybody, right? It's, hey, get good grades, go to university, go to college, buy the house with the white picket fence, the kids, the dog, the whole 9 yards, right? And that's success just in a box, right? But the truth is, people define success a million different ways, and it's unique to everybody. And one of my arguments is the skilled trades, the blue collar trades, plumbing, mechanical, HVAC, all of these things, they can help you live whatever definition of success is your own. So I like to ask all my guests, Terence, what is your definition of success, and how are the skilled trades helping you to achieve it?
That's a hard question, actually.
Good.
For me, it's the same thing that you said, right? To define success is like, it's different for everybody. And for me, whether it's skilled trade or not, I don't really look at how the skilled trades has brought anything for me for success. I look at the fact that, am I happy waking up wanting to do what I want to do every day? It's pretty much in the same aspect of a guy that I used to watch a lot, which is Gary Vaynerchuk. Yeah. He's a really good inspirational guy, but it resonates because it's always what I've wanted to do. Because when I do wake up, it's just, I want to make sure that I'm happy waking up and doing what I think that's the true success. And it doesn't really look in the ways of, I don't look in the way of money. I don't look in the way of fame. I don't look at the way of how big my team is or whatever I'm doing. I think success at the end of the day is just that I really wake up and I enjoy what I want to do. Because if people kept asking me the questions of how much I make, I don't even look at that at a certain point. I really don't, because that doesn't correlate to what I really care about. Like, what I'm happy about is just that I can make a difference. I can create a team. I can wake up at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. on a work day, and then sleep at 2 or 3 o'clock, and then be snacking, and then work out different times, go to dance practice, learn how to DJ, learn how to laser engrave. I have so many freaking hobbies. That's what's happy. That's what real success is for me. The fact that I'm happy and able to try whatever I want, be away from the desk whenever I want, be able to meet new people, get inspired by having conversations like this. That's the true meaning of success for me. And I think every day I'm still stepping in that zone where I feel successful because I'm happy.
I love that. And that's what I mean. It's exactly what I mean when I say success is unique to the individual, right? We only get one life, and do we live to work or do we work to live? So no, I love it, Terence. Thank you so much. We're gonna move to close, but how can people get a hold of you? How can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on LinkedIn. Also on TikTok, I use all four of the platforms under at the THE__impetus IMPETUS. On LinkedIn, just strictly Terence Chan.
Got it.
Thank you, Josh.
All right. Thanks, Terrence. I appreciate your time, bud.